Our reading today covers 1 Saul chapter 17, but I want to look first at what happened in chapter 16. Samuel, the prophet of the Lord, has been told by God to fill his horn with oil and set out to anoint another, because God has rejected Saul. Saul was God's choice of king, but Saul has angered God. Samuel takes a bull along so that if challenged by Saul, he can say that he is going to sacrifice the bull and that there is nothing to see here. God gets Samuel to anoint David, the youngest son of Jesse, and from then on, the Spirit of the Lord is upon David. Saul is tormented by an evil spirit and needs a skillful lyre player, and David is chosen. David's playing relieves Saul. War. It's on. The Israelites are fighting the Philistines over land. I must point out here that the idea that God is on the side of Israel is a warped view of God. God is on the side of the oppressed. But, to move on with the story, David sees Goliath taunting the Israelite army and decides to face Goliath. Goliath is tall, strong, has armour and a loud voice. David is young, keen, and believes that God is on the side of the Israelites and therefore himself. He does not need armour. He doesn't need a spear. He has killed lions and bears with his bare hands. He is smart. All you need is one lucky hit and Goliath will fall. It happens. And then to finish Goliath off, he runs up, picks up Goliath's sword and cuts his head off before raising the head aloft. The Philistines flee and the Israelite army chases them to Gath. So, this story is still used to portray an uneven contest where a smaller, less organised or less successful team or group wins against a bigger, stronger group. Often used in sporting talk, sometimes in the environmental area where a community group comes out winning against a multinational, or occasionally in the human rights area. We have Goliath beetles, so they're pretty big, although there are Hercules beetles too, so bigger maybe. Goliath comes out looking bad because he doesn't see the risk of his boast, and when David picks up his sling, well, Goliath should have ducked. A small man, no armour, no sword, and down comes the giant. What are we to make of this? Well, maybe this is a Bible story which is letting us see the power and importance of believing in God. We all have fears which can take on the size and troubling nature of a Goliath in our lives, and with our faith in God, we can defeat them. Maybe. Sometimes. It takes great care to discern what issue we need to challenge. Pick the wrong one, sometimes the obvious one, and trouble can follow. We need to be careful that God is in this decision and not simply our greed or wants. Have you ever seen David? I have. In the sporting contest, he's running out onto the field most weekends. He's been chosen by selectors to represent his team, and with his hope and his pride, he runs out ready to serve. Or maybe he's been playing computer games and sees ads for the armed services. He joins up. He wants to serve and has the strength to be chosen to help protect his country. Young men simply wanting to do what is expected of them. But where does it get them? Usually hurt. My instinct is to protect them. And look, this David and Goliath battle does not stop any of the fighting. Chapter 23, the Philistines are fighting against Caleb. Chapter 28, the Philistines gathered their forces for war. Chapter 31, now the Philistines fought against Israel. Samuel 2, chapter 3. There was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. Chapter 11. In the spring of the year, the time when kings go out to battle, so now battling has a season. A cursory glance through the rest of the Old Testament shows it's all battle with some memorable tales thrown in. But look, we can hardly blame them. It's 1,050 years before Jesus and his emphasis on peace and love for one's enemies and the forgiveness that freedom brings. What's our excuse? I really enjoy reading history, particularly medieval history. This is a time when Europe was Christian, and still they fought about Christianity. What was the right date for Easter? You don't agree? Have a battle. How should a monk's hair be cut? You don't agree? Have another battle. And it just gets worse. Sometimes it's about land, but the amount of slaughter is endless and awful. Back to David and Goliath. Look, I really want to like David. I know he has Uriah placed at the front of another battle, so that he can marry Uriah's wife. That's a standout rotten thing. But he wrote some lovely psalms. I know I sound flippant. It's just that war seems never ending. I wonder whether part of the problem is seeking revenge. When we are angry with another person or entity, what we call a big organisation where we can't see who is behind our fury, we often dream of revenge. It feels so good. It feels so right. Sort of soothing. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but it usually comes out red hot. It breaks relationships, injures, destroys, and continues down the generations. At this point, when we feel the need for revenge, we ought to pray and pray hard. God's mercy can free us. God's mercy can protect us. This is what Jesus teaches. So, looking at maps from that time, I saw that the Philistine state was where we call Gaza now. And Gaza is a city from that time. All that time ago. Sometimes authors take classics and change them so as to tell a new story. So I wonder about another telling. This is the story of Goliath and David. War, it's on. Two armies, the Philistines and the Israelites, are facing each other on hills above a river valley. Goliath, a giant of a man, comes out of the Philistine line to call out the Israelites. He taunts them. David, a young, recently anointed man, takes up the call. Without armour, sword or shield, he steps up. Goliath yells out some insults. David reaches for his sling, puts a stone in, leans back and fires and misses. Goliath runs toward David down a creek bed as David falls. And then, seeing this young man lying prone and defenceless, all the men in both armies scream, "Stop!" Goliath stops. He helps David up and carries him back to camp. The Philistines and the Israelites sit down and discuss how to make the peace. Maybe the river is a border, maybe a hill. Whatever deal is struck, it's a win for both sides. They never fought again. Down through the ages, the tale of Goliath and David has been told again and again. There are no swords, shields, armour, or big guns. Peace is our birthright. To quote Isaiah 2, verse 4, "They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more." I pray